Hey everybody, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm wanting to show you how to place a decal on a tumbler or really any surface and keeping the decal straight. So it's a simple trick that I use 99% of the time and it has not failed me yet. So let's go ahead and get started. Today I'm working with a tumbler and I did epoxy it already. So the decal is ready to be placed on here. I do have my decal. I did already cut it on my Cricut and I've placed the transfer paper or transfer tape over it. And what you'll need is a rag. I just cut up a big towel and you can use a paper towel as well. You need your heat gun. You don't need this, but I do recommend this. I'll explain that later. And you also need some soap and water. Now I just bought some, I think I bought these from Amazon and I typed in like makeup, I don't know, like makeup bottles, squirt bottles or something. So I just literally put Dawn dish soap and I literally put one tiny squeeze of the soap and I filled it to the top with water. And you can see the little amount of soap I have in here. Since Dawn dish soap, it does go a long ways. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your soap and water and you're going to take your tumbler and you're going to find a good spot. Let me see where I want this. You're going to find a good spot where you would like your decal. And then you're going to spray your tumbler or the area where you're going to place it. And what I do is I always just take my hand and I just make sure that it is covered, fully covered in the area that I want the decal to be placed. And then you take your decal and you just start peeling. This is actually a metallic decal, so sometimes it's harder to peel up than the regular vinyl. And this decal, the metallic, I did get from 651vinyl.com. It is the metallic shiny purple. So pretty. It says Mamacita needs a margarita. So you're going to take your soap and water and you're going to spray the back of that decal. Okay, so you're going to spray that and you're going to make sure that you have your tumbler sprayed. And once you do that, I know y'all can't really see this on the camera. I'm going to try to get it on the camera. But once you do that, all you're going to do is place the decal on the tumbler. And with spraying the decal and the surface with soap and water, it allows the decal to kind of, I don't want it to move because I have it straight, but it allows the decal to kind of move up and down. If you don't have it move up and down and the decal is kind of sticking there and it's crooked, take some water and just spray it on your hand and then put some water behind the decal like this. And then it will make it, stay, or not stay, I'm sorry. It'll give it some more like moisture and it'll slide it better for you. But this actually looks pretty straight to me, so I'm not gonna slide it. I use this 90% of the time, and even if I do, like this is straight to me, even if I'm like, oh, I got this, you know, I don't need it, I still use it because it's great. So now that this is fully stuck onto the surface or your tumbler, since it is still wet, whenever you go to peel this transfer tape, it's going to peel the whole decal. So what you need to do is you need to make sure, like if you see right here, you have to make sure this decal is completely flat. So you see that bump there? So you have to take your hand and you have to flatten this out. And this is where the rag comes in. So you want to push the water out from the decal and into the tumbler because you don't want any water bubbles inside your decal or underneath your wording or your photo you're putting on here. So what I do is I take my my rag and I blot around the decal and then I smooth out the decal with my hands. And make sure when you're doing this, you always take the towel and you make sure your hands are dry as well, because you don't want to, you know, take all this water off and then you still have water on your hands and then put it right back on the decal. So make sure you do have dry hands. And you can tell You can tell if you have bubbles inside of your decal or behind your decal and your transfer tape still. You'll clearly see those bubbles, so don't worry about that. So I'm basically just pushing on the decal to make sure I have all the water pushed out of the transfer tape. You can't see the transfer tape because it's a white tumbler and it's clear. So, but I'm just making sure that all the water is pushed out. And sometimes this is a process. Sometimes if you put too much water in here, it is a longer process. And once you get going, you'll get used to how many sprays of soap and water you'll be able to put on here. So this looks about dry. And you can feel, when you push the water, you can feel the water coming out of the transfer tape. So this is about dry. So what I want now is I want the decal to bond with the surface or bond with the tumbler. So that's where the heat gun comes in. Whenever you heat it up, the adhesive on the decal, it creates a bond again, and it creates a stickiness again, and it sticks to the surface. So I'm going to take my heat gun, and I always use my heat gun on a high, and then I'm just going to quickly move my heat gun around the decal. Make sure you don't keep it in one spot, because if you keep it in one spot, it's going to start melting the transfer tape. And this allows the adhesive to stick again. So like I said, you can use this method. I know a lot of people hang decals on their walls around their house. You can spray your walls with soap and water, spray the decal, and it allows you to move it up and back, or up and down, left and right. It allows you to put it anywhere you like. And when I'm putting multiple decals on tumblers, it's awesome because you can stick one decal here, stick one decal here, stick one here, and kind of move them and play with them while it's still wet on the tumbler. So let's see if I've dried it enough. And it looks like I did. So when I go to peel this up, obviously your decal shouldn't be peeling up with it. If it does, I'm hoping it does so I can show y'all. Let's see. Let me peel up this. Okay, so it's not peeling up, but if it does, all you do is you take your rag. So there's no transfer tape here. There's transfer tape right here. You take your rag and you blot it onto the decal. So then you just place it back down, and then you rub down on the transfer tape again, and then you peel up again, and then it should stick. If it still doesn't stick, that means that you've saturated the cup with water. It's still wet. So what I would do in that situation, if it still does not come up, I mean, if the decal still does not stick to the surface, I would go ahead and I would blot the decal. I would place the transfer tape down on the decal like so, and take my heat gun and hit it with the heat gun again. Just repeat the steps as many times as you need. Water will always dry. So I would rather you have too much water and be able to have so much leeway than have not enough water. And if you don't have enough water, you're not going to be able to move it as much as you want it to. And sometimes you don't get this lucky. I definitely don't. Sometimes you don't place the decal down and you're like, wow, that's great. So if you saw my A kind of came up, I don't think you did. But so my A, this part of the A wouldn't come up. So I just put it down, and I'm going to bring, sorry guys, I'm really trying to get this on camera and not mess it up. Bring this way, and then I'm going to blot the tumbler to make sure it's dry. Now in this situation, since I try to pull this way, this A didn't come up, I'm going to pull it from another direction. That's also a nice tip to know when you're placing decals, to try to pull. If it doesn't like stay on the surface, try to pull the transfer tape from another direction, and it will most likely, nope, it's not coming up. So sometimes it is like this. I'm going to try to dry all around here. It looks like I had a lot of water. I'm sorry, I'm upside down, but looks like I had a lot of water in this area. So you can still see the water on the A. Okay. So, and then if there's excess water, just blot that away with your rag. Make sure your tumbler is completely dried before you apply the last coat of epoxy down on the tumbler. Obviously, if you're putting this on a wall or anything, notebook or a laptop, you obviously don't need to apply epoxy over. But here it is, and it is straight. So like I said, all you need is soap and water and your heat gun and a rag or a towel, and you will always get your decal straight. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments, and I will answer every question you have. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.